Are the millions of Hindu gods manufactured or real? So I was listening to an interesting podcast recently called Bare Biceps. It's a funny name though, but it's a spiritual podcast hosted by, I think, Ranveer. It's called the Ranveer Show as well. But you can search for Bare Biceps and you could find it. And where they were discussing this concept that the many, they didn't say use the word millions, but they said the many um, various gods were actually manufactured by people and are not real. So I disagree with that, and going to be discussing that in this video. And surprisingly, as a Muslim, discussing this very specific topic, right? For those of you who like the contents of my video, please don't forget to press like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is going to greatly help my channel to be able to reach out to more people. And also, I would love to hear from you. So drop a comment. Don't forget to do that, right? And added bonus, if you could share this with your media, platforms, it would be doing me a very great favor, right? You don't know how much. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Osman, hashtag the blind Muslim yogi. I'm a bioenergy healer with telepathic healing capabilities, and I'm on a master level specializing in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, amongst a host of other physiological, psychological, and even spiritual ailments. I'm also an advanced level yoga and meditation teacher, having been practicing this art form for almost 50 years and teaching it now for 46 years. In that period, I've had the great pleasure to be able to study under various great masters from different schools of thought, from different cultures and across the globe, from the Far East, the Middle East, the West, and including the scientific communities. I created my own unique protocols, adapting them for the 21st century, making them basically simpler, faster, easier, quicker, more time efficient, and results oriented. And my favorite protocol is my 5 minute yoga and meditation program, which you can download for free by visiting my website, yogawellness786.com, where you can get more information about me. And also, I've had the good fortune now of having amazing students from over 100 countries, right? As a result of my decades of practice and teaching in this field. And also remember that all my therapies are natural based and not a replacement for medical treatment. So coming back to this concept, so theoretically, according to my knowledge, I don't know, what the actual number is. But to my knowledge, there are a total of, or originally was a total of 33 million gods, right? And so currently, of course, there isn't 33 million known, gods in the Hindu philosophies or the India philosophies, the religions from there, where these gods originate from. And but there are nevertheless many existing temples currently. Well, I'm sure well over 1,000, right? If I'm not mistaken. I'm just guessing out of the top of my head, right? I never physically do any research on this and so forth, but I know there are many gods and goddesses and so forth, right? And the statement was made, and I believe this is a very popular statement these days, to make things sound modernistic from a 21st century point of view, that actually people wanted to worship their idea of God, and that they created this from their own mind and their idea, and these are just concoctions of their imagination, and that God actually does not have a form. So the person who was speaking, of course, is a respected, well learned guest. It was a lady, elderly lady. I don't know her name because in the Indian podcasts, their pronunciations are very fast, and they speak very rapidly, assuming that the entire world is going to understand that name, and we're not used to the Indian names, right? So, and and their pronunciations, but she's from Karnataka, I think, and her language, original language is Karnataka, but of course she's speaking English, and she's 67 years old, and she had written 5 books or so, and also specialized in the Sri Vidya school of thought. And of course, she's learned it in multiple aspects as well. I think Kashmiri Saivism as well, which is really if someone even knows that word Kashmiri Saivism, hats off to them, because it is a very difficult field, right? And she gave some very amazing stories and very amazing accounts, but her version of the concept of God, and she of course substantiated it with scriptural backing, right, that God has actually got no name and no form, right? Is beyond name and beyond form, right? So this I I accept that it's her version, but not to come and say that this is absolute. Right? Yes, she's got scriptural backing, but the scriptural backing for other versions and concepts as well from within the Indian scriptures as well. So there are actually 4 versions. I thought, and I studied 3 of those versions, and now recently I got into the fourth, and the final version, which is like absolutely fascinating for me. The subject is like going deep into mythology, and it's very amazing because it was a passion of mine from childhood, right, to study the different cultures and their concept of God and so forth, right? So her concept that God is beyond name, beyond form, and is formless is attuned to more to the Advaita principle, right? So in Advaita concept or Advaita philosophy, they believe in non-dualism, that there's no me and no you. There's only the soul. The soul is one with the 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 cosmic soul, and everything is actually one, and there is no I and no me and no you. The ego melts and you become lost in it, right? So in disagreeing with it, of course I have to, because they are the other version. So Advaita believes in that. Respect to you, I'm not saying that you are wrong or right, that's your version. And there is, I've experienced that as well, because I've had my been fortunate to have my first Samadhi experience when I was 19 years old, and I had multiple Samadhi experience, but I didn't go get lost in it, or I didn't find you know um, it too exciting for me. I was wanting to live a normal life, right, and use only the concepts that I learned that's going to work for me in regular life. Like the meditation helps with mindfulness, and helping you to deal with stress and so forth, and living a normal life, and family and running a business. I understand, like people say, Maya and illusion and so forth. So I experienced the highest level. I lost my individuality, the ego concept, and I know what it is to be immersed in the cosmic energy and so forth. But you come back, right? And when you come back, you come with a different perspective, but you still the person. You don't lose your name, your identity. You become a renewed identity, of course, because you've had a mind-blowing experience. So it's going to have mind-blowing changes, in the way you perceive and see things. But you're still the same person, but with new perceptions, right? And you come back down. And so I like to quote Gopi Krishna, who in the English language, I think in the 1960s, he published his first book on his Kundalini experience. And he published multiple books, and his videos are available on YouTube. There is followers and um, people who assisted him and so forth, from various group. I think also from Canada. there's a body of people and from the US that followed him and captured him on film, and of course they converted it to videos and he's on YouTube. And he mentioned, yes, it's like a drop of rain that merges into the ocean and becomes the ocean, but doesn't lose its individual identity as a drop. It can come out again as that same drop, maybe a little bit changed, but still, retain its individuality. It can, when it's in the ocean, become lost, but when it comes back, it retains its identity as an individual. So you come back, when you come back, so a lot of people get very immersed into this concept. So this is like an ascetic way, through meditation and going into nirvana and the Buddhist principle as well, where you lose your individuality. But that's not the only method of spirituality. There is another big school of thought, the Bhakti Yoga thought, right? Who believe in devotional worship and using the ancient scriptures and ancient highly elevated people who's quoted in scriptures and so forth, especially in the Ramayana, is the concept of Hanuman, right? So he was a very big devotee of Ram, right? And Rama offered him the highest levels, and for him to go one with, everything, and give him the highest, boons and gifts and whatever he wanted. And he says, no, he doesn't want, he just want to still be a devotee. He finds pleasure to be always serving. So it is said that he still exists, and there is certain temples that recites the Ramayana. So I don't know whether it's true or not, but I believe this could be true, right? From a spirituality perspective, that he comes as an old man or a sage or a monk, and he comes and sits just to listen to the recitation of the Ramayana. And there are some stories of people who took initiation were told by people who had spiritual vision that he can be found in this place in modern day, in the 21st century, right? That you can go there and find him and he'll be the last one entering or something, and you'll know that's him, and then you grab hold of him and take your initiation from him, and so forth. So I can't remember, who, but there are stories like this, and not only one, there's plenty. I mean, if you do research, there'll be plenty. But there are people who want to be devotees. They want to worship. They want to be, like, for example, a Christian, and they don't want to become Christ. They want to uh, adore Christ, right? And I don't use the word worship because yes, a lot of them worship Christ, right? But I disagree with that, right? Respectfully, but adore him, right? And love him so much, right? And he was, of course, definitely, undoubtedly, an amazing personality, whether you believe in spirituality or don't believe, right? Whether you believe he really existed or not, but from the accounts and so forth and what you read, there's no denying he was an absolutely amazing person, right? So no one very rarely would you find a Christian says, no, I want to become Christ. I want to be one with Christ, right? So when you follow the mystical path or the ascetic path, the option is there. When you reach a certain level, of meditation, you have samadhi. There's two kinds of samadhi: sabikalpi samadhi and nirbikalpi samadhi. The first samadhi, called sabikalpi samadhi, you merge and experience the oneness. You experience this amazing bliss, and the I believe it's a creation of God, not God. So a lot of people say that is God, right? A form of God, but I believe it's a creation of God, because how can I, with a human brain and a human mind, fit in the experience of that which is so beyond description and infinite? It's not possible. It became finite. Once I can identify and say this feeling was like It was similar to Sachidananda, the description called Sachidananda. This is the experience. It was like extreme bliss was thrown into an ocean of bliss, and he became part of that ocean. And it was actually over blissful beyond what it's like a light bulb, like 1,000 volts going to a 40 watt, light bulb. 1,000 watts going through a 40-watt light bulb. Of course, going to blow it before I could blow. Fortunately, was able to, stop the experience in seconds, and but left speechless, right? For like in various times that I had the experience, sometimes a few minutes, or sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes up to an hour. You open your mouth, try to enunciate, and you become overwhelmed, you're in tears, and you're feeling, nauseous, and you like crying, and you overwhelm, and it's like really, it's for me, in my opinion, like from my perspective, right? Respect to everyone in this. It wasn't a pleasant experience, right? And it's not something that I was looking forward to, nor that it was something that I was striving for. Yes, I practiced hatha yoga because I wanted to have fitness, right? I practiced pranayama and all that because this is, good for this thing. I practice mindfulness practices and so forth, to have this experience. Yes, right? I wanted to know, curiosity, right? But when I had it, it's not something that I ever wanted to strive for. And even these days, when I meditate, and I feel the bliss starting to come, I stop the meditation. I want to be able to control it. And then I'm slowly starting to learn to control as I'm doing my Kriya practice and developing my energy body. And I'm now today reached the level 731 in my energy increment, right? 731 levels, in developing the levels incrementally of the Kundalini energy that I can withstand in my body, starting from a very low. Of course, the Kundalini energy is beyond. That's why I couldn't handle it, right? But learned how to control it through the Kriya practice and developing it and developing my body, right? So coming back to this God's being, it's a very big background, to the God's being a concoction of the human mind. So for every one of those gods is a mantra. So the mantra will create the form specific, where two strangers or three people or even 1,000 people across the globe who have DMT, they go maybe to the same because there's so many frequencies. Quantum physics has found 11 dimensions, but to my knowledge, yoga sciences, I know of 114 dimensions, right? So physics still needs to catch up, but I mean, they've found 11, right? And they say we on the third dimension, and there are higher frequency living entities in the higher frequency realms or dimensions, right? So people who's having mushrooms and DMT, they go into these higher frequencies and meet the very similar characters every time. And some of them go to lower frequencies and frightening entities and so forth, right? And those entities come into this world when they're not even using it anymore and they go insane and so forth, right? A lot of adverse effects on this usage of these things, right? So coming back, they're meeting this higher frequency. So these mantras is it's not a concoction of the human mind. This is a common cause among everyone that these were revealed. The mantras were revealed. Yes, some people these days are making their own mantras, but the mantras relating to the gods or the 33 million gods, and the word gods also is just, it's a wrong word, English word. The word is devas and devis, right? And the word for like God, what we would consider is Brahman in Sanskrit, right? So just to correct that, so the Devas, the 33, not million, not gods, Devas and Devis, they are like effulgent beings made from, like as though they're made from light matter, right? Like light particles or photons made from, it seems as though they are constructed by photons because they are effulgent, right? So, of course, I've got extensive experience in this field. I've recited mantras, before becoming Muslim, and I learned the correct way of doing it, and The aim of the, you must see the deity of that particular mantra. So there may be like maybe a Vishnu, different types of Vishnu deities with different mantras that will show the four-handed form or the six-handed form and the eight-handed form, or this thing, and different mantra for it. And when you recite that specific mantra, you will see that particular number of hands or that particular exact same type of Vishnu, or Narasimha, or Hanuman, or whatever it is that you're reciting. The aim is you must be able to see, right? So because people don't know the correct method of reciting mantra, they don't see the form, right? But each one has got the form. And was there a form created by some person in the past? No, it is related to the mantra. The mantra has got a sound form and a yantra, a physical form. So the yantra has got either a two-dimensional or a three-dimensional form. So the form, like the humanoid form, so we won't say human because it's a deva and the devi, right? They got multiple hands and they very high frequency levels. Cannot compare them to humans, right? Very beautiful as well. Some of them, some of them look frightening, right? To because you're not used to them, right? But effulgent beings, and specific to that mantra, the 2D yantra, or the 2D form, is the diagram. It's made of circles and triangles and like flower shape or petals and alphabets in between in a square or something like that, right? And dots and all this. So there's different specific diagrams for each specific mantra, and there's a specific form for that particular yantra, for that 2D form. There's a 3D specific, very specific. It's going to look exactly like that, same. It's not going to look different to me and different to you when they recite that particular mantra. When you realize it, so you're going to see, that, and you're going to see like how you're seeing me, and you'll be able to talk. Eventually, you'll be able to communicate with. They normally communicate by mind. They're not communicating with words because we're using in this dimension language and sound, but it's a very inefficient way because I have to talk so long to give the idea. But 1,000 hours of video in 1 second they can download it into your brain, and then you just will take time to unpack it, right? Because we thinking in a linear and a time space construct. In the higher frequency there's no past, present and time. There's no stretching out. Instant, everything. You don't need time from left to right or from so many minutes to learn it. Instantly, you know everything, right? And there's knowledge of past, present, and future, and all that, right? So it's not the subject of this video. This video is to debunk that theory that these gods are a concoction of someone's. Is not real, and that God does not. It's not God. These are devas. Each deva has got a form and the mantra, and what they call gods is the devas and the devis, right? So there is also a principle of God. So yes, when we say the principle of God is beyond the conception of our mind, the absolute. That's why we say God, right? The one God that there's only one God is beyond the conception of the mind that we cannot see, we cannot understand, we cannot fathom, right? This is the principle of God, which is what I would accept the highest. But the other ones, not a concoction of the mind. These are devas and devis. They have been existing before humans came and worshipping, and their knowledge came down from the rishis or sages or saints or messengers and prophets and divine beings, right? That came on earth and gave this information of what was existing maybe eternally or for a long time, right? Much longer than probably that the planet earth was existing. And so I'm not going to the argument of their existence and so forth, just that, or how long they were. My argument is this is not a conception of someone's mind. People didn't create these things, and the rishis and the sages didn't create these mantras. It was revealed to them. It was a revelation because they are amazing, right? So hope that information helps you, and take care of yourself always.